This video goes with lesson 5.1, and in this video we are going to classify triangles by their side lengths and angle measures. We're going to open up our journals to page 125. So open up your student journals to page 125, and we're just going to review how we can classify triangles by their sides and their angles. So, classifying a triangle by its sides, we have three different ways we can classify a triangle. If a triangle has no sides that are congruent or equal in measure, we would call that a scalene triangle. If a triangle has at least two of its sides congruent, and I can tell by the tick marks, then we would call this an isosceles triangle. If a triangle has all three of its sides congruent to each other, this is an equilateral triangle. We can also classify triangles by their angles. If a triangle has all three of its angles and they are acute angles, so less than 90 degrees, then this is an acute triangle. If a triangle has one of its angles equal to 90 degrees, we call that a right triangle. If one of the angles in a triangle is obtuse, so it's greater than 90 degrees, we would call this an obtuse triangle. And if all three angles are congruent to each other, we would call this an equiangular triangle. So let's go ahead and apply these classifications to an example. We're going to turn a couple pages. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3 on page 127. It says classify the triangle by its sides and angles. So we're going to give each of these triangles two names. Okay. So first let's talk about the sides. And number 1, this triangle has no congruent sides. And I know that because there are no tick marks on any of the sides. So even if they were to look congruent, I can't assume they are. So I know this triangle will be a scalene triangle. Now let's classify it by its angles. So I'm looking, this is an acute angle, this is an acute angle, this one is obtuse. So we said when a triangle has one obtuse angle, we would call it an obtuse triangle. So this triangle is a scalene obtuse triangle, or an obtuse scalene triangle. Number 2. First, let's classify it by its sides. Again, I don't see any tick marks, so all three sides are not congruent to each other. This is scalene. I added this in because I wanted you to be able to see it. This was supposed to be a 90-degree angle. They should have added this symbol here. They did not, so please go and add it in. One of the angles is 90 degrees, so this tells us that by its angles, this is a right triangle. So this is a scalene right triangle. In number 3, we can see that 2 of the sides are congruent. This tells us that this is an isosceles triangle. And if I look at all the angles, they are all acute angles. They are less than 90 degrees. So the triangle in number 3 is an isosceles acute triangle.